Can we have the light off for her in there? It's dark in there all the time. Maybe I'll push this up so you don't have a bunny or something. That's screaming. Trying to think ahead right now. That could be distracting.
Early kick off serious side effects like low blood calcium, serious infections, restricted hospitalization, skin problems, and severe bone, joint, or muscle pain.
Don't wait for a break. Call your doctor.
Didn't make it. That means cooking date night until small business. That's payments, payroll, and banking.
There are many reasons for waiting to visit your doctor right now. But if you're experiencing irregular heartbeat, heart racing, chest pain, shortness of breath, fatigue, or light,
Stop and increases your risk of having a stroke. Eliquis can cause serious and in rare cases fatal bleeding. Don't take Eliquis if you have an artificial heart valve or abnormal bleeding. While taking Eliquis, you may bruise more easily.
Well, I only had to do that twice.
What place?
Put the tire on. I put it on, then I got it up to the bike and I went, oh, the direction rotation is wrong. And then,
Oh, how
and then, yeah, that valve was sticking. So I had a brand new tube and I just put the brand new tube in it anyway.
oh,
So it was all fine. You know, twice the ball. Well, anyway, so no big deal.
April, this is Hillary. Are you able to unmute? Oh, I think you're muted. Oh, there we go. If everyone would want to mute their mic,
1 minute 2 is
that'll help Doggy in the light. Hillary, did you want to do any introduction at all for Whole Foods, or how would you like to do that? Let's see here. You know, look at yeah, there's a lot of new. I'll go around. April, are you able to meet people? And you're welcome to unmute yourself and in with questions. Well, I can only mute myself. You're able to. I think it's just probably you, Hillary, that's able to. Yep. Jennifer set it up. Cool.
yeah.
Okay, I think we got it.
Yay, nice.
Everyone. Lots of little details with the virtual space these days, but good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for coming. This is a part of the co-op's new virtual class series, and April is here today on a very special day. Happy Earth Day 2021. Earth Day is important now more than it ever was, so thank you for putting in the time, showing up tonight, and getting some great notes on how you can reduce your waste. April has participated in co-op events in the past, so this is her second class. It's been a popular one, but yeah, on behalf of the co-op, we're so excited to host April. She's up to really amazing things in this community. She has a really cool Facebook page. I think I just got you guys accepted my invite a couple weeks ago, so I have to dig in there. But I'll hand it over to April for the Zero Waste Living class, and on behalf of Whole Foods Co-op, thanks again for showing up.
Awesome.
April, take it away.
Thank you, Hillary. Yeah, hi, welcome everybody. Thank you for joining me on this beautiful evening. Oh my goodness. I'll have to get outside and walk after all of this. Yeah, so happy Earth Day. And I can switch over. I'm going to share my screen so that I can show my PowerPoint. So let's see. Oh, Hillary, would you be able to enable the participant screen sharing for me? Looks like it says it's disabled.
Now it's working.
Yeah, I figured it would.
Sure, let me do that one second.
Yeah, go ahead.
Tough. I don't think you're
I'm struggling to figure that out. I will figure it out, but it might be a couple minutes. April. if you
Well,
don't-
I can just do my introduction and then we can kind of just skip through my intro slides on there too. They're just pictures of me anyway. So yeah, so I'm April. I started Zero Waste Duluth a couple years ago. And so I run that and I do a lot of different sustainability work. But just to give you guys a quick background and how I got into living a zero waste lifestyle. In 2014, I was diagnosed with SIBO, which is small intestinal bacteria overgrowth, and endometriosis. And both of those were just had really debilitating symptoms with them. And so when I got diagnosed, I had asked, what the treatments were for this. And the treatments that I was offered were ones that either I couldn't do because of past reactions that I've had to those medications, or they were just, they felt a little bit too extreme to me. Like for SIBO, I had to do like 2 weeks on antibiotics and then 2 weeks off, and then 2 weeks on them and then 2 weeks off. And they were predicting possibly for the rest of my life. And that was not something that I was willing to do. And so I had asked, are there any natural treatments to these conditions? And the answer that I got was the catalyst to a whole new lifestyle change. I was told that there weren't any. And so I didn't want to accept that answer, and I got really fired up about it. And I went home and I started doing a lot of research about how to treat myself naturally with these conditions. And what I found was through my research online was that plastics actually, when they're wrapped around our food, can put a chemical into our food that mimics the hormone estrogen in our bodies. And so that hormone estrogen is actually a player in endometriosis. And so I didn't want to be adding more of that type of thing into my body. And so when I learned about that, I looked into my fridge and my freezer and my pantry, and I realized that practically everything was wrapped in plastic. And so I started researching again, and I was trying to figure out ways to, go kind of countercultural and buy things without all the packaging. And so I ran across Zero Waste Living, and I just fell in love, and it gave me a lot of good tips through my research, especially through Bea Johnson's book, Zero Waste Home, and her blog. And I just started from there. And that's really how I started. It was a really roundabout way of getting into zero waste living, was just kind of through my health, but now it's just really grown. And I've learned so much along the way about my health and about the health of our earth, and just a lot of different ways that we can live a more earth-friendly life. And so, yeah, that's how I got into it. And then it just started blossoming, this lifestyle. I lived it for a couple of years. And then I was down at Park Point one day a couple years ago, and I usually go there in the summer for a swim. And one day I went there after a storm, and I guess the waves must have pushed a lot of the litter from the middle of the lake up onto the shore, because I hadn't ever seen the shores of Lake Superior so trashed before. I was devastated when I saw it. And since I had been living a fairly plastic-free life for a couple years before that moment, I realized that we had a lot of change to do in our community and within our own individual lifestyles to be able to prevent this waste from going into our environment and our lake. And so that is what really inspired me to start sharing my lifestyle with other people and starting to do this do this talk for everybody. And I started the Zero Waste Duluth Facebook page. I do have an Instagram too, although I don't update it as much, but you'll be able to follow my journey on there. And then I also have a blog called Zero Waste Nature School. So I run a nature-based preschool on my hobby farm at my home. And so, yeah, it's kind of just integrated into every aspect of my life, and it's really fun. So yeah, that's kind of my introduction. Were you able to get that screen sharing going, Hillary? How did that go?
I made you a host, so I think you should have the
Perfect.
capability now.
Okay, let's see here. I'll share this and then go on here.
Awesome, we see it.
Yay, hooray. And then how do I do this? I gotta figure out how to put this thing up. See if I can just.
I think slideshow puts it in kind of presentation mode.
Is this, I can't, oh, here we go. The bar of Zoom was covering it up. Yeah, there we go. I'll just try to move this bar around a little bit. Oops. It's still in kind of a bad spot for me. Maybe if I can just go from beginning there. Okay. All right. So that looks good to you guys on your end?
Totally.
Great. Okay, I'm gonna skip through these. That was the trash that I had picked up that day when I was at Lake Superior, and that's when I started just getting really inspired about doing Zero Waste Duluth and spreading this movement. That was the trash that I was trying to pick out of the water and out of the sand, and you can see most of it's all plastic because it doesn't break down very easily. It takes a long time. So yeah, I'll jump right into zero waste living. So what does it mean to live a zero waste lifestyle? So zero waste living it's about making intentional choices regarding the trash we send to the landfill, but also just in general, the resources that we use. It's not just about the trash that we create. It could be about, you know, maybe walking or biking somewhere instead of driving a car, that kind of thing. So it's just being more intentional in general. And then it just guides people in changing their lifestyles and practices to emulate a sustainable natural cycle where materials that are discarded would be kept in a reuse cycle rather than used once and then throw into the landfill not to be used again. So there are 5 R's that guide the zero waste lifestyle, and that is refuse, reduce, reuse, recycle, and rot. And I'm going to go through all of these in the presentation. And so the first one, refuse. You want to follow these 5 R's in the order that they are. And so refuse is the most important one. That's going to be the most prominent R that you will be able to implement and reduce the amount of trash that you create. And then I'll go through the rest as we go here. So first one, reduce or refuse. Refuse what you do not need. So as you can see, this picture is of a straw that was littered on the beach of Lake Superior. And so this is a very easy item that we can just refuse altogether. Some people do actually need straws, and that's not necessarily for them then to refuse that. Most of us don't need a straw to be able to enjoy a glass of water or whatever you're drinking at that time. The most often I would use a straw is when I am having a green juice in the morning, or if I have like a smoothie or something kind of thicker. But other options that you could do instead of the single-use plastic straw would be to bring your own reusable straw so that you can refuse that single-use one. Instead, you have one that you reuse over and over and over again, which is what I do at my home. And if I go out anywhere where I would need a straw. Other ways that I refuse items are the top left picture is me out to sushi. And instead of taking the single-use chopsticks, instead I bring my own. And that way these can be reused over and over again. And just because the chopsticks are made out of wood, there's something compostable, more earth-friendly. still taking resources from the earth that isn't necessary, because we can have a reusable set of chopsticks that has to be made just once, and then we can keep using them over and over, rather than taking a pair of single-use chopsticks and then just composting them, taking them a new one each time. And so that's how it is for all of these. Another way you can refuse different waste is the middle picture on the top is actually from the Duluth Grill. This is how I got takeout food. I would just ask them to put the food on the plate, and then I would bring in my own reusable containers and transfer the food to my reusable container instead of taking the styrofoam or at Whole Foods, they do the compostable takeout containers. But again, you're still reducing that single-use item being used. Other ways that I do this is if I'm just eating out at a restaurant and I know that I'm going to have leftovers, I just always put in a Tupperware into my purse so that I have it ready to go for any leftover food to go into. The next picture on the right, on the top, is a method, Japanese furoshiki is what it's called. And this is a way that you can either wrap your lunch if you go to work and bring a lunch, or if you're going out for a picnic, or this actually is a gift that I, instead of using individual like single-use wrapping paper, instead I have a reusable cloth that I wrap gifts in. And that way you still have the element of surprise with wrapping a gift, but then it can be reused over and over again the next time you need to give a gift. And the bottom left picture is a way that you can buy cheese or meat at the meat counter at Super One, which is where I go usually in West Duluth, although I've had good luck at Kenwood. Super One, I'm sure there are other places that would be open to that too. But I just bring in my own glass bowl or some sort of glass container with a sealable lid, and I ask them to put the food into that instead of putting it into a plastic bag. And that way I can reduce that plastic coming into my home. The next picture is actually of my cat, who this picture was taken when I was first starting to live a more zero waste lifestyle. And the plastic bags at the registers at the stores, we can bring cloth bags there instead and reuse those instead of taking a single-use plastic bag each time. Same with a paper bag. It isn't necessary, and there's a lot of great ways that we can get cloth bags or reusable bags. Please reach out to me if you don't have any, and I will love to try to find some for you guys. I know there's a lot of totes out there. And that picture of my cat, she loves plastic bags actually, and those seem like something that is just so hazardous out in the environment. And it was even within my home that it was an example, because my cat, she gets all tangled up in them. She likes to put her head in there, but then it got so twisted on her that it was like really tight and dangerous. So just thought that was a really eye-opening experience for me to have that happen in my home too. And then the bottom right corner is the green juice that I make in the mornings, and that I use a reusable straw like we had talked about earlier. And then some other examples. Whole Foods actually has a way where you can bring in your jars on the top left corner. The reusable jars I just bring in, and I fill them with soap there with their big jugs at the store. And so just make sure to weigh your jar first, empty, and I'll go into this more of how to actually do this. But basically you'll weigh your empty jar, write the tear weight on it. That's the tear weight, is the weight of your empty jar. And then you fill it up at the store if they have the bulk bins available. And then you write the PLU number on the sticker too. And I'll show you more on a different slide, more details with that. But yeah, that's how you can buy it without getting soap in a plastic bottle that you would either have to recycle or even potentially throw away if your recycling facility does not accept that type. And then the top middle picture is a way where you can do more natural type of lotion. That's actually coconut oil, which is what I used for a long time when my skin was really dry. And I would buy it in a glass jar rather than plastic. And that way I could just put it into a little container that when I was using that for lotion. Now, actually, I don't even need to use coconut oil. I have figured out that my dry skin came from food allergies. And so now that I figured that out, I don't have dry skin anymore. And I also stopped washing with soap a lot. I still shower with soap, periodically, but I found that it actually dries out the skin because it takes the oils away, and that was causing more dry skin. And so when I went more natural, then I was able to reduce my need for lotion, which was really cool. And then I'll skip down to the bottom left corner actually before I go into the other two on the right. Bottom left is how I buy toilet paper. I actually use a family cloth is what it's called. It's just a reusable cloth, and I just have a bunch of little squares and basically the size of toilet paper, and those are made from cotton, and I use that as toilet paper for myself. But I do have toilet paper in my home for my preschool that I run here. And so I buy that in bulk in a big box. And so each one is individually wrapped in paper. And so that I'm avoiding that plastic. It still is that, single use item. So I would prefer to avoid it when possible. So I do that for my own self, but I don't expect guests to come in and be totally ready to, use a reusable cloth for in the toilet. So that's that. And then the middle picture on the bottom is the way where you can reduce disposable pens. And so this is called a fountain pen. It's actually refillable. And so you're not using a plastic pen where you'd have to then throw that away when it's empty. You can just keep refilling this with the ink. Or you could use a pencil, which is more earth friendly, made out of wood. Although this one and the example has like paint and stuff on it. But yeah, and then the right two pictures are just other ways that you can reduce your resources. So if you're in a big city, you might have these Lime bikes or scooters that you can rent, and then you can use those to get around instead of driving your personal car, and that would use less resources. It's a smaller way of getting around. It uses just the electricity instead of all the oil and gas. Otherwise, just a simple bike is what I do. I challenge myself in the summer times. If I'm going somewhere that's, less than 10 miles away, I will just bike there instead of drive my car there. And then I get that great way of exercising, which without even really feeling like I am. The next one is reduce to what you need. I live a very minimalist lifestyle. I try to just own items that I use and need and love. I don't personally own very many items I don't actually use on a daily or monthly or even yearly basis. So one great step to reducing is actually to just declutter. And this is actually a great time to spring clean and declutter your home. And this is a great time because there's a lot of community-wide garage sales that you could either, if a family member is doing a garage sale, put your stuff in there. Maybe you can get a little money back. Other ways, you can just donate your stuff to a thrift store or sell it on, Marketplace or somewhere, Craigslist. And yeah, so this way you are sharing your unused resources with others who need them. And secondhand is just great because it's a market that we want to support. That way others can use items already created rather than buy new ones and take more resources from the earth to create something that already is in existence through the secondhand market. And other ways that reduce is great is just when you own less breaks. And that means that less creates something for you to have to repair or repurpose or even have to send to the landfill. So yeah, just in general, when decluttering, you create a less consumptive mindset. I think it was found that we see about 5,000 ads per day. So we live in a highly consumer-driven society. And so it's good to try to start refusing and reducing what we need, and really looking at our homes and seeing what we can share with other people who might actually need those items. The next R is reuse, what you can't refuse or reduce. So we went through a lot of examples in the refuse section, but here's a couple more reusable items that I use in my home pretty much on a daily basis. I use a stainless steel safety razor, and that way I'm not using the plastic disposable razors. When I was using those, even before living a zero waste lifestyle, I was often just frustrated about how I would have the plastic handle, and then I'd go to the store and it seemed like they changed the head mechanism just enough where it didn't sit on my handle anymore when I brought it home. Maybe I was buying the wrong one or something, but it was the same brand and I was always confused, where this is so simple and it's also not adding plastic to the environment, and it's a material that could be recycled. And so this brand, Albatross, actually, they send 5 blades to you, I think with the razor. It was a while ago when I bought it, but and then they actually have a take back program for these blades. So once they're used and not able to be used again in your home, then you can just send them back and they repurpose them into other things. And so, yeah. And then the next one below that are just my cloth napkins that I use instead of using a paper napkin. Even if you get the brown paper napkins, you could compost those. But again, it's taking a resource that you probably could just switch to reusables, and then you're not having to use anything that's single use. And then the bottom picture are cloth bags. Those are items that I bought in the bulk section before at the co-op or other stores. I think this picture was actually taken on a trip. We were able to find a place that did bulk on a trip. And so I had brought a bunch of these cloth bags. And so I could just go to the bulk section at the store and fill up my bags with food. And I didn't have to take their paper or plastic bag to put it in, since I brought my own. Same with that middle picture. It has bread in it. There's a local a friend of mine actually who bakes, and she does like allergy friendly breads, and so I was getting bread from her for a long time actually, and at this zero waste wage, I would just give her cloth bags that the loaves would fit in, and she was able to give me those instead of putting them in a plastic bag. And I know there might be bakeries even around that would be open to doing that, but I would definitely call, because with COVID, you know, things are kind of shifting with that. People are starting to get more comfortable again with reusables in that way, but just give like a bakery a call if they're open to doing that. And then the top right picture is my zero waste car kit. So this is what I like to keep in my car pretty much all the time. Just so that I know that I'm ready for any event that would potentially create trash in my life. So say I was going to a wedding or something and they had styrofoam plates and bowls, and they had plastic forks and knives and spoons. I could just take out my reusable regular plate from home and bowl and all my reusable utensils and bring that in there and serve it onto my own stuff instead of creating that trash. And again, then my food is not in contact with that plastic, which would be harming my health. And I usually bring a reusable straw, chopsticks, a reusable napkin, jars, and Tupperware with sealable lids, and a tote bag in case I ever need to go shopping on a whim. And then that middle right picture is just a sneak peek at my one of my kitchen cabinets. That's where I store a lot of my bulk food that I get in cloth bags at the store. I just transfer them into a jar if I feel like that would be best for preserving the freshness. Sometimes I just keep them in a cloth bag though, if I'm going to be going through it pretty soon. So yeah, how to shop the bulk section. So say you were going to Whole Foods. They're very bulk friendly with all of the reusable containers and bags. So what they have there, and you know, whatever other store you go to, I know like Cloquet Natural Foods. Also, before COVID, they were comfortable with that. I would check in with them if you're going there, but that was one place I went to quite a bit with my reusable bags. But Whole Foods has been awesome with that, even recently with everything. So yeah, what I do is I bring in either my cloth bag, and I'll just use this as an example right now, but also you could do those like rectangle square with lid Pyrex containers. You could bring those in. I bring those in. I bring bowls in, whatever I need. So what you do is you put your container. So let's say the bag. I put this on the scale at Whole Foods by their bulk section. I put my empty bag onto the scale, and this bag weighed 0.04. So I wrote 0.04 on the bag. They also have stickers that you could use. I just decided to do it with a pencil on my bag to avoid the little sticker too, but I have to use stickers on my jars. So I weight that, so that way they know how much to take off at the register. So I'm not paying for the weight of my bag or the weight of my jar, let's say. And so once I wrote the number that the bag weighed of the empty bag, then I go and look at the product that I want to buy. So like say I'm buying cashews. I think that's what's in here right now in this bag. The PLU number is the one that you want to look at on the actual bulk bin. So you look at the PLU number, that number was 575 for what's in this bag. So I wrote that on here too. At the register, that identifies what's in your bag, so they don't have to open it up and look. They just can see right away what's in there. And so that's all you need to do. Then you just fill it up and they do the rest. And they are really comfortable with it there. And it's awesome. You can buy nuts, flowers, teas. You can even buy like pastas, lots of grains. And then also they have, if you bring jars, you can do honey, oil, soap, syrup, all kinds of stuff. So just check it out and see what all the options are. There's so many of them. And then okay, so this picture here is a typical grocery haul for me. There's not plastic in here at all. All the produce was bought without a bag. I just put them straight in my cart. And I didn't need to use any sort of bag that they had at the store. And then I bought, if you see, like I have shrimp and lake trout in the glass containers. Those also had lids on them, of course, to bring them home. But those were bought at the Super One meat counter in West Duluth. And so I just asked them to put it in there instead. And they usually weigh it first, then put it in. And then sometimes they weigh it with your container. It just depends on who you have, but then they'll zero it out if they put your container on there. So you're not paying for that heavy weight of the glass. And then you can see that I bought lettuce, Brussels sprouts, mushrooms in my cloth bags. I have peanut butter from the co-op in a glass jar that I brought in. There's milk in the back in a reusable jug. That is actually a deposit system where you pay $2 extra when you buy that milk, so that it encourages you to bring that jug back when it's empty, and make sure you rinse it out. But then you bring it back to the co-op and they give you that $2 back, and they give it back to the farm and they reuse that jug. So it doesn't have to go through the big intense recycling process with recycling that glass. It's just being reused over and over again, because reuse is before recycle in the 5 R's: refuse, reduce, reuse, recycle, rot. And so we want to try to reuse things before needing to recycle them. So that's one great way to do it. And then you can see I did have to take one bag, brown bag on the left there. I didn't have quite enough cloth bags with me, so I opted for the brown paper bag so I could at least either reuse it or compost it if I couldn't reuse it at my home. And yeah, and then I also, in the bottom left corner, I had bought some soap in that container, although normally I'd probably bring a jar, but I ran out. So yeah, it's a typical grocery haul. Not a lot of waste at all. The most waste I have are the little produce stickers. So this is kind of a fun one. This is in reuse as well, because often when you see food that seems like it's going to waste, like all these potatoes, there's nothing you can do with them. They're getting all wrinkly and soft and they get eyes on them and can't eat them anymore. They're all green. You don't have to compost them, actually. You can reuse them first. They're a seed. And so that was one thing that I did. And I just love this example of there's so many different ways to reuse things rather than recycle or compost, like in this example for composting. So yeah. And then the next one, the next R is recycle. So there's lots of different ways that we can recycle things. Soft plastics, like if you do have some soft plastic bags, like it would be the examples of, the single-use plastic bags that you would get at like at a register. If you have things like that, you can bring those into the store. The co-op does have a plastic bag recycling bin, kind of located by the bathrooms at the West Duluth one. Might be in the entrance with the East Duluth. I'm not sure where that one's located. I go to West Duluth more, but like Walmart's or Super Ones usually have them. Target, they have those soft plastic recycling, so those don't have to get put in the trash. Best Buy, I would check in to make sure that these are actually still in the entryway of Best Buy. Now that I'm thinking about it with COVID, I don't know if they've changed anything with that, but before they were doing this electronic recycling and cords and even plastic bags. I'm assuming they still accept them. I'm not sure if their bins are right there though anymore, but I would definitely check in with them about recycling these different electronics. And then, and that was just a free drop off. So otherwise, like fabrics, instead of sending those to a landfill, maybe if you have like some torn sheets or like a towel that isn't really that usable, you could either make it into something else yourself or give to a local crafter, or even an animal shelter might reuse those. And then of course, the curbside recycling, if your area offers that, can do the aluminum cans, plastic bottles, glass jars, paper. Just check in with them at what they accept and what they don't. Each place is different because they haul to different areas. And then also look into the different types of plastic that they recycle, because each place just might be different. So, and then the last R is compost, is to rot. And so instead of sending all these great materials, these organics, out to the landfill, where actually they have been found that because the landfill does not have, it's not an oxygen rich area, it actually preserves these items that could be composted and made into really nutrient dense soil. And instead, if it's sent to a landfill, it actually is like preserved and then creating those gases. So it's really great to have a compost, and they're pretty simple. What I have at my house is just either an open pile during part of the year. We live kind of in the woods, so it's a little bit easier for me to do that. Some people who are more in town, they have kind of an open pile, but they have like a bin that it goes into, and they just kind of throw it in there. Otherwise, you could get the closing ones where you can turn the compost. I do have one of those too that I use, and that kind of keeps it more contained if you have a smaller yard. And then you just keep adding to it, and then you keep rotating it. And you want to make sure that you have these green ingredients, which are like the ones that are in the bucket that you see in the picture, which would be like the more fresh stuff that you'd be putting in. You want to make sure that you have that. And then you also want to have a lot of the brown material. I actually add more of the browns to my compost than the greens, so that I make sure I have a good ratio. And so otherwise it can, if you have too many of those fresh green kind of materials, it gets kind of like slimy and very smelly. And if your compost is getting slimy and smelly, then you probably need to add more of those browns, like dead leaves, and like we use a lot of hay at the farm at my home, and so I add a lot of that hay into it. And then just looking for things that, if it does have to be more of a kind of a disposable item like a toothbrush, look for something compostable that you can at least send that to your compost pile instead of the landfill. So take, for example, this wooden toothbrush that I have. I use, instead of a plastic toothbrush, this is mostly bamboo, so that when I can't use this toothbrush anymore, I can at least take that head off, and those bristles I wouldn't be able to compost because they're plastic, but the rest of it I could. And so, yeah, that's it. I want to make sure we can have time for questions too, but I also want to do a couple more things. I want to end with this quote and another one too. It's whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. I really, truly believe in this quote. This might feel overwhelming to add in a whole bunch of stuff, all these different things that you're learning. But really, it's just if you think you can do it, or if you think you can't, you're right. And with zero waste, it's also this quote: we don't need a handful of people doing zero waste perfectly. We need millions of people doing it imperfectly. And I love that quote so much. And that's really how it is. It's just taking one small step at a time. And eventually you get to the point where you are creating practically zero waste. I'll show you my mason jar challenge in a minute to show how much waste that I create in a typical month. But yeah, it kind of just like for me, I took small steps when I first started. Just each month I would do one thing. So I think what I started out with were chip bags. I had loved eating chips. And when I looked into my trash can, I saw that I had a lot of chip bags that I was just sending to the landfill. And so I just was like, okay, what's a zero waste solution for this? What is a way I can reduce this plastic trash that I'm sending out? And so I started making my own chips, and that worked out really great. And now that I took all those little steps, I just kept implementing one little step at a time. Now I can look back years later and I create practically nothing. And so just have fun with it, get creative with it. If you come across something that's tricky to come up with a zero waste solution for, just get creative, reach out to your community, and we'll have fun and help each other figure it out. So, and then a trash audit is a great way to get started on this. And I'm actually going to give you an example of a trash audit right now. So, but if you want more, you can follow me on Zero Waste Duluth on Facebook or Instagram. And then Facebook I'm more active on, but also you could follow my blog, zerowasternatureschool.com. And those are great places for you to get more information about our local area and how to live zero waste here. And we have a great community on there where people are always really willing to share their ideas. And I know everyone's such a big source of knowledge. So yeah, okay, I'm gonna go out of this and I'm gonna get back to my screen here if I can. Let's see. I wonder if I can go on Zoom. This. Sorry. Oh, stop share. Yeah. Okay. Are you able to see me now? Okay. Great. I wonder if there's a way. Okay, I'm going to do this trash audit for you guys so you can have an example of how to do this in your own home. So what you want to do to get started, this will give you just a really good foundation of where to start. And so you look in your trash can and you see, maybe kind of sift through it and see what is the most common item in there maybe, or maybe what's something that you want to find a zero waste solution for that you're really excited about, or maybe you want to do one that's really easy. Like say you look in your trash can and there's a mesh orange bag, a bag that came from oranges, that held oranges. Maybe that's a really easy one for you to be like, oh, I don't have to create that trash anymore because I can buy oranges without the bag next time. And that can be your first step. It's as easy as that. You just look into your trash can and you find one item that you want to not create that type of trash for anymore. And so I have a mason jar challenge going on right now. I do these once in a while. What I do is I track my trash in a mason jar for 1 month. And so I started out about 7 days ago with this empty. And now I have started adding the trash that I've been creating each day into here. And so this is not what you're going to get right away. I've been doing this for many years, and this is about 7 days worth of trash, but it took me a long time to get to this point. So basically, I would just be looking into my trash can, which is this right now. But of course, wherever you're at, just start with whatever trash you have. So I'm going to do a quick trash audit for you for my last 7 days. So let's see what I have in here. So I had some cheese. This is a cheese wrapper. I'm not sure exactly how to get cheese. I do to a point. I eat goat cheese, and so this cheese it's a little bit harder to find without a plastic wrapping because you can't go to Super One and get it with your own container. So what I've done in the past is I've either gone to a goat farm that would let me buy the homemade cheese that they have. Or I do have goats myself, but right now they're not in milk, so I can't make cheese myself, which is what I would do sometimes. So what I found though was that it felt like I was using more resources going to a separate farm to buy cheese than to go to the store where I'm already going anyway to get groceries. So I opt for getting a little bit of trash with the cheese and driving to a farm using all those resources. So you kind of have to weigh it out. So that's that one. And then I do have some, we're going to be doing a garage sale because lots of my family members have been reducing what they have in their homes. And I also have been, even though I've decluttered so much, I still have stuff that I go through and get rid of. And so we do price things with stickers at my friend's house at her garage sale. So I do have some of these sticker forms for pricing those. And that's part of my trash this month. A lot of produce stickers, not really taking up much room in there. I probably won't take out all of those in here. I eat a lot of apples and oranges and all that. The other stuff I have in here, there's some tape from the box that I was actually using the box for something else, and this tape was on it and it had to come off, and so that's some trash that I created. You can use paper tape though, and that isn't plastic then, and that can be composted, I guess, but this box came from somewhere else, so they had the plastic tape on it. And then let's see what else. I'll have to use my pencil to get it out. Let's see. So I also had a birthday not too long ago, and I got flowers for my birthday, and it came with this little plastic flower food packet. So that's plastic, and I don't really think I can reuse that. I'm not sure what I would do with that. So I think that's a landfill one. And then I don't know if I can be able to get it out, but it's pretty much all produce stickers in here, and there's one Band-Aid. And so you can get compostable Band-Aids, I think. I haven't bought them yet though, because I want to use what I have first at my house before I buy more. So that's an important rule to remember, is even though it's really kind of feeling like an inviting thing to buy all the compostable things, if you have the more unsustainable one that you got to use up first, just use that up first, and then replenish it once it runs out. So I have quite a few Band-Aids I got to go through before that. So, but I guess you can use like plantain, like the weed plantain, the edible weed. You can use that. Some people like to use that as nature's Band-Aid. You just wrap your wound, if it's a little one, with it. Not giving any advice to do it, but I've heard people like to do that. So yeah. So that's my mason jar challenge. I'm 7 days in, and this is about how full it is right now. I still got a ways to go in my month, but I got lots of room in there. So yeah, a couple more weeks and I think I'll be fine. So that's a trash audit. You're just looking at what you create, and then you try to think of ways that you can avoid that trash next time. And so I'll have to do some thinking maybe on some of these. So yeah, that's a great place to start though. Just one thing at a time. And I'm ready for questions if anybody has questions.
I did. I have
a couple of questions and a couple of observations.
Mhm.
I think maybe a way around the cheese, you know, the packaging on the cheese, is to go to a lot of the stores have a deli. They could slice cheese for you and you could have your own container for that. And
Yeah.
then as far as the stickers on the produce, I don't know what the stores would think of this, but you could always take the sticker off and just leave it at the store, put it on another piece of fruit or something, so you wouldn't have to, because a lot of times they fall off and the cashier has to look up and weigh the fruit or vegetable anyway.
Yeah,
And
if
then
one
the-
didn't have one, put it on that one because they would need
Yeah.
it there anyway,
Yeah.
maybe.
And then I have a couple of observations or just a couple of comments, what my wife and I have started to do a little more of. We do bring our food to a compost, but what I personally have been doing lately is when I buy any new clothes, I try to look for clothes that don't have, that aren't polyester or that are natural or cotton in that. And then the big thing I've been doing is wearing clothes more often, so I'm not washing as often. So I'll take a shirt and instead of wearing it once and then washing it, I'll wear it like 3 or 4 times. And so I've been cutting down a lot on the usage of water and just washing clothes so they last longer too. So that's just a couple things that I've been doing.
Those are all so great. And thank you, yeah, so much for all of those and bringing up the community composting option. I didn't mention that, but yeah, that's a great option. If you don't want to do composting at your own home, there are community sites like WLSSD has a drop off that you can bring your compost to. Gosh, where else? Where do you guys bring yours?
The co-op has,
Okay.
and we usually take ours to the Munger Inn because it's on our way, over to, we pass that a lot. Yeah, those 2 places.
Great, thank you so much. Yeah.
That's close.
Yeah.
Does anybody else have a question or comment or tip for anybody?
Hi, April. I had a couple questions.
Hi, yes.
Hi. The soaps, the liquid soaps that you can buy in bulk at the co-op,
Yeah.
is that like shampoo? Is it dish soap? What kinds can you get?
Shampoo, conditioner. I think they even have laundry soap. The Denfeld store and the East End might have different things in there. They do have different things in their bulk section, and I can't remember exactly if they differ with the soaps too. Hillary might be able to comment on that if she's still on here. But yeah, like shampoos, conditioners, laundry soaps. I tend to use kind of the same soap for everything. And so like I tend to use the hand soap for like laundry and everything. And also for soaps, you could do bar soaps, which is what we do a lot too. That's another option. And you can find those raw either at like raw I mean unpackaged at like craft sales and local people who make those. And then they also make like shampoo bars and shampoo conditioner bars, and just conditioner bars too. High Bar is one I think that might be more locally made, and that's a good brand that I've used before. And then also you can go no poo, which is what I do now, and you can not wash your hair with shampoo or conditioner, and you could just wash with rye flour. You just put a little bit of rye flour in water and you mix it into a paste, and it actually washes it perfectly like shampoo. It's really great. So those are all ways, but yeah, I don't know if Hillary's on where she can comment more about what would be available at the different ones. Might not be right now, but yeah, hopefully I answered your question well enough. There's a lot of different options there for soaps.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Thanks.
Yeah, good to hear from you.
Yeah. Yeah, it's good to see your face again.
Yes. Does anybody else have any questions or comments?
Yeah, hi April. I have a question about if like at local stores when I'm trying to find different products like either a stainless steel or a glass spray bottle. And they don't carry them at local stores that I know of, like not at Whole Foods or Nature's and I don't like to shop at Amazon. And so I'm curious, if you have found online stores other than Amazon that we can find some of those reusable type of products.
Yeah. You might be able to check Tear Market, which is Minnesota's like first zero waste shop in Minneapolis. They have more of an online store that you could support them. I'm not sure exactly what all they have, if they have those types of spray bottles, but it seems like something that they might have. That would be a good place to check. You could even put in requests to stores if you're looking. I know the co-op sometimes will take requests, and then like Cloaky Natural Foods, the owners there are so kind, and they said, if we don't have something that you don't need, please let us know. And so I've even requested like their bulk section to have like gluten-free noodles, and they started supplying that in the bulk area. And so sometimes just asking if they would be willing to try out that product, that's something that I've done before. But otherwise, for more local, I would say check out Tear Market for more zero waste stuff. Otherwise, there is a Package Free Shop, which is what Lauren Singer runs, but that's like New York. She might have more stuff like that too. So those are two that come to mind right now.
Thanks.
Yeah, thank you. Does anybody else have any
Hi,
questions?
April. I had a question.
Yeah.
When you use your jars and things, I suppose you need to sterilize them before you fill them out with food items at the bulk section and things. What's the process that you go through? Because I'm imagining like when grandma used to do the canning and you had to sterilize it in the boiling water. It just seems like a lot. So is there a shortcut? And then I have a second question. You have a solution for dental floss?
Okay, yes. So your first question, for just doing bulk shopping, I just use my dishwasher, and that's a good way to sanitize it for that. So I guess I don't really go like and boil them or anything like to the extent where you probably would want to with like canning things. So I just make sure that it's really well clean, and I feel like my dishwasher gets it heated up really well. And some dishwashers are like ours, it's really good about water usage and efficiency and stuff. So I feel comfortable doing that. And yeah, and then also for like the bag shopping at the bulk section, I just make sure to wash them each time, and with like on a hot cycle on the either like hand washing them or in the actual laundry machine. So yeah, that's what I do for that. And then dental floss. So I have used compostable dental floss before, and I did not like it. I don't know if there's somebody on here who has found a dental floss that works, but the one that I had, and I don't even remember the brand, so I'm sorry, I wish I could remember it for you, but it just broke in between my teeth, and then it would get stuck in between my teeth, and I couldn't use it to get out the other piece, and it was just
that
not
sounds
great.
terrible.
Yeah, so I have not had any good experiences yet with compostable dental floss, but I know that they're out there. Look into reviews first, I guess, is what my piece of advice would be for that.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. I've heard silk, like thread. Bea Johnson, who wrote that book Zero Waste Home, she has talked about using silk thread, but I haven't tried that to give you any like firsthand experience. So yeah, if you wanted to be adventurous, you could try that out.
Okay, I'll let you guys know if I find anything good.
You should. Yeah, thank you for your question.
What the string is.
Anybody else?
I have some questions.
Oh yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
I have
question. I do a lot of freezing of, for example, when I cook bean. In a small amount, I usually use a jar, but in the large amount, do you have any suggestion?
Oh, for freezing large amounts of food?
Yeah.
Yeah. So some large amount of food that I have frozen in the past, what I've done is I bought a compostable paper that I can wrap around it. Before I put the paper on though, I actually freeze the item on a tray in my freezer. So it's totally frozen. And then I take it out and I wrap it in that paper. And then I put it in there. That is, single use item, but then at least I can compost it and it's not plastic. But I know some people do freeze like large amounts of food in plastic bags, like Ziploc bags. And they just keep reusing them over and over again. They'll just wash them when they're empty and then save them for the next time they need to. And then, you're still reusing something. I just kind of go a little bit differently because I try to reduce that plastic exposure with my health issues in the past. So just depends on kind of where you're at. But I do know people who do live zero waste and they don't mind putting large amounts into Ziplocs and just reusing them. So hopefully that helps a little bit with what you do.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I have something. No, we're okay. I've been using this dental floss that I get at the co-op. It's in a cardboard box.
Oh, great.
And it says on it 100% vegan or vegan waxed. So I don't know if do you think that's I think the packaging is recyclable, but I don't know if the dental floss itself is.
Sure. Yeah, I guess I'm not sure what the floss would be made out of, if it's like plastic or if it's a compostable plastic. It seems like it should say it on the box if it's like a compostable thread, but if it doesn't say that, it might not be.
Yeah, maybe it's just the wax part that's vegan and that's what makes it different from
Yeah, it says the wax, it just says vegan wax. It says no beeswax or no mineral wax. So I don't know.
What's the name of that?
It's called EcoDent Gentle Floss, and we buy it at the co-op.
Okay.
Yeah,
I'll do some research on that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. Does anybody else have anything?
Let's see.
Oh. If nobody else says, I've been wondering if anybody else lives rural. I've been wanting to compost more, but I have some very not very timid bears in my neighborhood. And so I've been a little leery of composting food scraps and drawing them in near my chicken coop. So I'm wondering if anyone else has experience with this, if maybe I should look into like doing more of a covered thing or what people would recommend.
Yeah, I can speak to it first and then anybody else can jump in too. So I've had kind of issues with that too, not with bears, but with skunks. And I really don't want to have skunks on my property, especially when I run a preschool here. I'm like, oh man. And so that is actually why I like to have that rotating one that covers, like it's a bin that's up. I'm sure I have a picture of it somewhere on Facebook, but yeah, it's just basically a bin that is up, and then it just is like kind of a round bin that you can open the top and then put your stuff in and then close it, and then you can tumble it. And that way, like nothing is really attracted to it from what I've found, because it's off the ground, but bears might be attracted to that even because they're attracted to like garbage cans and stuff. So not sure exactly specifically about bears, but I do use a closed one because of a skunk issue too, quite a bit. So does anybody else have comments about bears specifically in compost? Yeah, We might not. Oh, it'll be something to look into.
We live out in Oliver, and so we're not really in the country, but we have a really big backyard where we get animals back there. And our main problem with bears is with our bird feeder, because they tend to want, eat the food and then they bend the brackets, and it's just a real mess. But as far as composting, I think it was about 3 or 4 years ago. We usually go to the home show at the deck. And this one particular year, they were giving away these compost containers. So that's what we've been doing. So then it doesn't get outside and we don't have to worry about the bears or animals. And then we just, we bring it and dump it off at, the co-op or other places, once a week. And that's what we do for our compost.
Yeah.
So that works out really well.
That's a great thing to bring up. Yeah, if you live rural and you have a bear issue, or you don't really want to do the composting at home, some people, when they save their compost, because it can get smelly in the house, they just store it in the freezer. So they have like a bin in the freezer that they put all of it in, and then it doesn't break down. And then when they're ready to go into town, say if you go like once a week or twice a week, I don't know how big each family is. You'd have to kind of assess to see how much food waste you create. But yeah, you could do that, because then you wouldn't be dealing with any compost rotting, and you could just bring it with the next time. So yeah.
April, I have a question about composting. I have a tendency, it seems to get moldy.
Sure.
And so especially if I just have like a bucket under the sink, I have that problem. I'll mute so I can listen.
Oh, sure. Yeah, I have that problem sometimes too, because I get kind of lazy, like bringing it out. And we don't trade a ton even. So like sometimes we'll sit in there, I'm like, man, I gotta bring that out. Yeah, I guess I don't know if I have that great of advice, but just what I do is like, I try to bring it out more often. It's just one more chore though, so I get the problem. But it seems like once it gets outside and in the actual compost heap, then it's fine. I don't know if that's your experience too, but it's more like in the house when it's not like getting worked in, that's where the mold issue comes in. So I guess my only advice is from personal experience, and that I just always have to keep bringing it out more often. Yeah.
A question.
Yeah.
Are egg cartons, the cardboard egg cartons, are they compostable or just recyclable?
They are compostable.
The co-op used to take them, but now they don't anymore. So we put them in recycle, but we're just wondering if they're compostable.
They are compostable. Yep. And they would actually add a great brown then to your compost.
Okay, good to know.
Bring in better ratios.
Awesome.
So yeah, you definitely could do that. You could also donate them to a farm. I know I have a lot of the preschool parents here actually bring back egg cartons to my farm, because we have chickens. So you could check in with local farms to see if they would take them directly from you. I think the co-op stopped taking them because I think they had done a study or looked into a study or something that was finding that there was just like bacteria or something in them. So they didn't feel comfortable doing that. But if you wanted to reuse them, maybe more just like going directly to the farmers, or but you can compost them. If they have like that paper sheeting over it though, that I don't really put stuff like that into the compost that has like all that coloring on it and like prints and words and stuff, because like if like bleached paper can add like the chemicals and stuff to compost, so it just kind of depends. So you might want to do more of just like brown paper that would be the actual carton base. So that makes sense. Yeah, thank you. Are there any other questions? This is great. I love seeing people's faces on here too.
What about
and I love seeing names, and it feels like we're together.
What about contact solution? I wear contacts, so I have to buy these bottles of solution. Is there any way around that, getting around that, not buying plastic?
Oh man, I can't speak to that personally. I don't need them. Does anybody wear contacts who would have an idea?
We just have to recycle.
Yeah.
Trying to think if I know of anything. I don't feel like I have a good
That's a
answer for
tough
you.
one.
Sorry, that's a hard one. That's the one you're
Yeah.
gonna have to get creative with. Yeah, save that one for later, maybe. Yeah.
The bottles are recyclable because, I mean,
Okay.
they have a recyclable number on the bottom, so that's helpful.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, you can at least do that. Yeah. I would look into if you're on Facebook, you could look into Lauren Singer and like Package Free Shop, or she has a blog too, and I'm spacing on the name of it right now, but I feel like maybe she's talked about contacts before.
Okay, I get the emails.
Okay.
Package free, I get them occasionally because I ordered a shampoo bar from there.
Oh,
So
sure.
of course, you know, I get all
Yeah.
their emails now, and they have a lot of things on there. Very interesting just to look through that site, package free. Very interesting.
I have a question about batteries. Are there any batteries you should absolutely avoid? And are most batteries recyclable, or is there a way around not having to even buy batteries? I mean, some of them are necessary, but is there a way to reduce your use of batteries?
Yeah, I feel like I do reduce my use of batteries. I don't know a lot about like which ones to avoid and what, to use that would be better. You can get the rechargeable ones, although I haven't really had that great of experience with them. They don't seem to hold the charge very much, and maybe mine are just too old. So if anybody can speak on more newer rechargeable batteries, those might be a good option. Otherwise, I tend to just try to avoid things with batteries. So instead you could go for something with more of a plug-in. If you need something that uses that like electricity. Gosh, I tried to like for instance, I run a preschool, and sometimes with kids you have these like battery operated toys. And so if I were to buy something that would take batteries, I would want it to be something where if the batteries ran out, they could still use it. And like a fire truck, a little fire truck that makes a siren noise. As soon as the batteries run out, I'm not replacing them, and they can just use the fire truck and make their own noises. And I'd almost rather them do
I was
it
gonna
anyway
say,
that
don't
way.
even put the batteries in there. Just don't even. They won't know any different.
Yeah.
Like, oh, sorry, this one doesn't have batteries.
Yep.
I have a question. What do you personally do at home to reduce your electricity and your energy bill?
We don't have shades on our windows. They are all shade curtain free. So we wake up with the sun, and I don't turn lights on. Like right now, we have really good light in our house, as you can see through the picture, and I don't have any lights on in here.
Yeah, we don't either.
And then, so that's one way. And then we do have a small solar panel that we use for charging a battery, just in case we would ever need it. But also I like to charge my laptop on it and my phone, things that I typically would need, electricity for. Otherwise, I like to actually do these challenges where I go a week without having the electricity on. So I shut it all off. And I have to really, that's like, big step, but it's fun. It was fun for me to get to that point to be like, this is really going to challenge me to see what exactly I need electricity for and what are options that I could do instead. So like the fridge was a big deal during that challenge for a whole weekend without a fridge. And so I had to think like, what kind of food can I enjoy without needing a fridge? So like, can this food sit out on the counter? Do I can it? Do I, what are these different things? So I don't know, you can get really, really crazy with, I guess, that question, but yeah, it's a fun one to think about. But those are some ways that I do it. But we still use, electricity in certain ways, but yeah.
What is your form of heat? What do you use for heating?
we have a wood stove
Okay.
that we primarily use. And so we cut down mostly just local trees like on our property. We have like a little over 5 acres and a lot of dead trees. So we've actually been needing to clean up the woods anyway. And then, so we've been doing that, and I probably have a couple years worth at least of dead trees on my property. But also you can get like wood from like my parents just down the road. They took down a bunch of trees, and I just asked them, can you save that wood for me? And so things that would normally just be given to maybe somebody else, or, I'm just kind of sourcing that wood. So that's how we normally heat our home. But as a backup, also we do have like in-floor heat, although I do try to have that off for a lot of the winter. So.
Well, I'm going to brag a little bit. I think it was about 4 or 5 years ago. I took a class up at UMD. I'm in university. My wife and I are in university for seniors, and I took a class about alternative energy. And we previously had propane for heat, and then we went through a really bad winter where our propane bill doubled. So we're paying like $500 a month. So the next spring, we took out a home improvement loan and had a geothermal system put in. And so we've noticed a big savings in our energy bill. We don't put any carbon dioxide out in the air. And so it's just using water. We're using water over and over and over again.
Yeah.
And so we're really proud of that. That made a big difference for us, not only environmentally, but it helped our budget a lot too.
I bet. That's so awesome.
It was awesome. Yeah.
That's really good.
Yeah, we love it.
That's great.
Yeah.
I gotta look into that more. I'd like to learn more about it.
Well, I can recommend somebody if you're ever interested, but it usually takes a good deal of room to be able to, bring the equipment in, and they dig a big trench in your yard. So it does take some space, and it's a pretty expensive upfront. But there's a lot of government rebates and tax incentives to help out with paying that money back. It's just a really good way to go.
That's great. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
Yeah, awesome.
Hi, April. I have a question for you.
Yeah.
Hi, I was just wondering, could you share where you buy your bread?
Oh, yeah. Her name is Betsy Norman. I believe that she was still open to making bread. She was making it for a couple of people. She didn't have like a bakery or anything, but just kind of did it in her home. And it's not even like a company at all. It was just her, Betsy Norman. But you could definitely email me or message me on Facebook if you're on there, and I can get you her contact information if you're interested, and ask her if she's still doing that. Yeah,
Okay.
she did like allergy-free bread, so it was like gluten-free, and she even did like egg-free for me, dairy-free, really yummy stuff. So, and like tortillas, and yeah, she would, definitely message me if you'd like that information. I'll be happy to give it to you.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Anybody else?
So you were talking earlier about food allergies. Did you have to go to an allergist or someone to find out what you were allergic to in the first place?
So I first started with that SIBO and endometriosis, and I didn't know I was allergic to things at that time. And then, so I started going to a kinesiologist and chiropractor in the Gordy's Plaza building, Northland Applied Kinesiology. And so he actually, through kinesiology, was able to test my body through basically like muscle testing. If you've ever heard of muscle testing, you hold a food onto your body and then you muscle test it to see if you get weak or strong with it. And it's basically testing the energy of your body, and it's just a very holistic way. So he tested me and he found my allergies, or if I was sensitive, or if my body just wasn't happy with something at that time. And so he was able to do that for me. And just through my experience with food too, I was like, okay, here's what's happening with this. Can you test it and tell me more? And so, but not a regular allergy test at all.
And that helped your dry skin too, right?
A lot.
Wow.
So
Okay.
I'm pretty allergic to nickel, which actually was one that I found I was allergic to when I was 9. We put earrings in and my ears got really swollen and red and like had pus and everything. It was so gross. And then, so I just don't wear earrings anymore. And I always knew that I was allergic to nickel if I like wore jewelry and stuff, but I didn't realize that you could have a systemic nickel allergy syndrome where you are allergic to the nickel in food. And so when I had really, really bad patches on my head, like horrible, horrendous patches, basically how my ear was, but over my whole scalp for almost my entire life. And my hands would break out and get really cracked and dry. And when I would like the last thing we were figuring out for my health was this rash. It just wouldn't go away. And so he ended up, I was like, test everything that you have. And he started testing my scalp and he was like, that is reacting to nickel. And I was like, I'm allergic to nickel. So I went home and researched it and I'm like, oh, you can just totally react to nickel in food. And once I did a low nickel diet, my dry skin went away, my rashes went away, my health improved unbelievably. So
what kind of foods would have nickel?
Yeah, so like leafy greens, nuts are really high, chocolate, beans. Actually, a lot of the stuff that I was buying at the bulk section was high in nickel. Most people probably wouldn't have a big deal with that, and it's healthy food in general. But for me, because of that allergy, I had to really switch things up. And so I can't eat a lot of nuts or seeds or beans. But now I'm actually working on my energy systems. I could get like really crazy on you about it. I'm working on my energy systems to actually eradicate the allergies. So I'm getting closer to being able to eat those more often now.
Okay.
So yeah, it's interesting. I love talking about health, so I could go on for hours about it, but I won't. Does anybody else have questions?
No.
Well, thank you everybody so much. This was so great and talking to everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
For doing
Thank
this.
you. Very
Yes, we're able to see that you ready to leave?
Yeah.
A lot of this stuff.
Have a great night. Enjoy this weather.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Awesome.
Thanks, April.
Yeah, thank you.